All the interwebs. This, of course, is Gamer 1745. I think I'm here. Of course. Gotta turn that audio off. Like I say, I think I'm here. Wow, okay. A little late. Hopefully those things will be great, but we'll have to see as I wake up. So, yes, hello Arno, my friend. Arno's a good friend and great moderator here and other places. We're going to, of course, be playing some Hearts of Iron here. So how have you been, Arno? Okay. And Airborne Core, we're going to attack the Airborne Command. The Meath, whatever that means. Oh, nearly getting started. Oh, yes. I think we'll start making an episode here. Welcome back, fellow Armchair Generals. This is Gamer 1745 here playing Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice 11.2. And if this is not your first time, or if this is your first time here, hey, I hope I earn your subscription. Everybody, I hope I earn you hitting that like button. Okay, we're going to, I notice we're out of spies. Let's that. Excuse me. Still just waking up. Now we have a carrier group over here. Let's add down here in the bottom 3 light cruisers. Cruisers. Is there a comm sub pack? Seats are sort of strangely organized here. I don't know why some of I get the scouting force and the U.S. Atlantic Squadron are here. Why is Asiatic Fleet there? I'm going to undo this and do it to Pacific High Command. And Arno is over there on Facebook, so we are live there. Good. Okay, well. The immense size of the Pacific. Just huge. All right. Now, we have a lot of things, mostly infrastructure, but other things as well, reducing our ICs. So we're back to just building ships, though we started to build fortifications in the Pacific. So we're going to hopefully get back to that soon and in enough time. At least that is the hope. I may not be building enough ground forces, but we will see, won't we? Bomber crew layout. Well, we might not have enough of them, but we're going to have some very up-to-date aircraft, I think, by the time the war comes. How is the audio doing, Arno? Is it good? For HQ. It is great. Very good to hear, Arno. Very good to hear. Yes, you can have energy. Who wants this? United Kingdom. Yes, we will do this for United Kingdom's sake. And that will give us, I think, enough money. We're going to invest in more gold. Yes. Good. That and regimental combat teams. 41. Well, let's see if we can find a 40 technical. That like down here. Let's do 8. Do division HQs. That would be good. Classes advance. here. Let's see about improving armor piercing ammunition. Now let's see about improving high explosive. Those 6-inch guns, basically. 5-inch, 6-inch. Okay. Panama no longer Arctic warfare. Good. Be able to deal cold. Line. Not that that is where we want to end up, but we have things like hydrophones to do. And Romania is mobilizing. Let's take a look at the European Theater of Operations. Well, they're almost at Arno's house. They're pushing around here. I guess there's a force up here stopping the Germans. And they're holding out in Liège and the fortifications there, and Antwerp, and have yet to get to the... I'm pretty sure there's fortifications at Brussels as well. And the Germans have taken out the Danes, and they're moving up into Norway. State of the war in Europe. Oh, and they finally got rid of that little rebellion. Nope, they moved into there just now. Okay. Special Forces Combined Arms. And enforce conquer on Norway. Medium bomber prototypes. All of that to be researched. Get to there soon. Army headquarters, which I think is this one. We're going to let that continue. Okay, so we get gold. Good. Soviet Union taking out the Baltic states. And heavy bomber prototypes has advanced. Yep, I think we're going to start looking at getting these done. And we still don't yet have enough free spies, so that means a little too much. Here still. Do that. Luxembourg has been annexed. Okay, good. Aluminum back. We're still holding out a bit. Okay, Italy. No, we're not trading with Italy. Aluminum surplus. Good. We would give them money. Okay, you want money? Yeah, okay, we can do that. Sure. Oh, they've pushed across up here. Light bomber prototypes. Sure. Aramco established in the Arabian Peninsula following major oil discovery. So oil is going to be found out there. Yep, they're fighting back, but once their flank is turned up here, I think it's doomed for them, but they're going to hit Amsterdam from two ways. Infantry support weapons. Maybe eventually. I think we're going to do vault tech. Because it is so out of date. Oh, and I've taken in yeah, Antwerp and Liège. Basing advances. Now we can get engines. We want the fighters to be as, oh, those are a bit okay. Whatever. Did we not get the basing done? I thought, yeah, okay. Need supplies. We're getting them from the Allies just to help them more than we're doing it to help ourselves. Now for an engine. Okay, we'll pause. Okay, well first let's see what does Zealand want. New Zealand. British colony named after the part of the Netherlands, yes. 1 unit submarines. Okay, you can get a production license for submarines. Alright. Okay. Old Ironsides. President, we shall inform the division, or shall we form the division headquarters for the 1st Armored Division, Old Ironsides, at Fort Knox, Kentucky, historically July 15th, 1940. The 1st Armored Division, largely an expanded and reorganized version of the 7th Cavalry Brigade, was activated at Fort Knox under Major General Bruce Magruder. The 1st Cavalry Regiment was redesignated the 1st Armored Regiment, and the 13th Cavalry Regiment was redesignated the 13th Armored Regiment. How clever of them. Under the 1st Armored Brigade, the 1st Division. For more than 2 years after its activation, the 1st Armored Division trained at Fort Knox. Division pioneered and developed tank gunnery. Okay. Old Ironside captured. Okay. Uh-huh. Right. 1st Armored Corps formation. Shall we form the Armored Corps headquarters of the 1st at Fort Knox historically? Okay. We have both. We have a division here. And we have a Corps HQ here. Right, okay. Division headquarters. Sonar and detection equipment. Good. And that means, and it's grayed out. Okay. Still the old tank models I see. Yeah. We're at Christie T3 for armor, and now the M3 Stuart actually for the light armor. So they've gotten a slightly more up to date. I really want this fleet. Here we're going to get these in August, July and August, so that will free up. Some of these are going to take a while to build, not too long hopefully, but I want to get them building, be able to hold out in the Pacific. Oh, way down to there. Prolong, yeah, we're going to prolong the Neutrality Act. Radios have advanced. Very good. Let's see about... We got high popularity. Good. Don't know if we'll be able to maintain it. Aviation air search. I think that is here. Okay. And navigation. Good. We'll go that next. How about aircraft models? Okay, we'll take a look at that in a moment. Carrier. What sort of radars, if any, do we have here for carrier? Well, a lot of cruisers. So let's do cruiser surface search. Spot ships on the surface. And we can also do air search. Get aircraft up in the air, spot them. Okay, ooh, okay, yes. I guess we want to do this. Iowa. Postpone our mine expansion by 6 months. Now we have the Iowa here. Well, August 42. Well, what we're not going to add it because that's 10 ICs, and I want to have those 10 ICs sooner rather than later. And we're going to move all these guys down as well. We're going to leave, yeah, light cruisers. Not really yet. I don't know the dates of its development, but most of the army in December 1941, most of the army is still equipped with the 1903 Springfield. If I remember correctly, the forces out in the Pacific are almost exclusively armed with the, the army forces out in the Pacific are armed with the Springfield. South Africa, do I want that much money now? Armed with the Springfield. All the divisions out in the Philippines and whatnot are doing that. Yeah, it's a great rifle. There's some controversy whether the probably many of you know this, and I don't know for sure whether Arno knows this. During World War I, most nations needed more of everything. Just needed more. The British were sort of looking at and updating their rifles after the experience of the Boer Wars and fighting against the Mausers that many of the Boers carried. Not all of them. We have the sort of the newer Mausers. Some were carrying older, 88s and whatnot, and a few carried Craig Jorgensens, I hear. But the war sort of interrupts the plans to redo the Enfield. The Enfield has become it's a very good rifle, but it's been an evolving rifle, and it sort of has vestigial unused or unneeded bits on it from earlier versions of it, and could be cleaned up. Well, I don't remember all the details, but they're thinking about going after something sort of like a Mauser. Well, with the war, they just produce more Enfields, just do more Enfields. So they go to America, and it takes a while, but a sort of a second alternative rifle that they want to get is based on on the Mausers, called the P14. And it takes a while to get it in production, but they do. And I don't think the British, I don't remember the production numbers, but the British use some of them, but I don't think any in combat, because it just ends up being, a rear area weapon. And it's in 303 Enfield. And then you have America entering the war, and it needs more as well. And it's trying to equip its forces with the 1903 Springfield, which is a derivative of the Mauser. But they need more, so they convert basically all of the productions of the P14 into what they call the P17, which is a 30-06 version of the gun, which, again, the P14 and the P17 are versions of the Mauser. So, yeah, U.S. secondary rifle is the P17. Now, it is used in combat, and if I'm not mistaken, Sergeant York, the famous Sergeant York, actually carries a P17 in his famous actions. But the American Army wants to downplay the P17 and relegate it to secondary service. So with the downsizing of the Army after World War I, they all get put into reserves. And I think the overwhelming... No, I don't have one of those. Nope, they're cool, but I don't have one. 1903 Springfield. They send a huge amount of the P-17s to Britain after, the Dunkirk situation and losing a lot of their rifles and equipment to bolster British supplies. So the Americans virtually, I'm not going to say none, but virtually none, are used in World War II. So, but which is better? There's debates between the 03 and the P14 or P17. Rifles in British services series data arms were P14s or P17s. Were they? I'm not sure. It's been so long since I've seen that, and I've just only seen some episodes. A few years ago, I started to try to rewatch the whole series, and I probably should try again. I want to watch it through in order. I do like the series. I've seen some of the episodes, but just sort of random episodes, not all the way through. Okay, medium velocity guns, which will allow us to research other stuff once we get a little more research. And the 1903 Springfield has, by this period, has been updated mainly by moving the gun sight. The rear sight was in front of the where the bolt is, and right over the chamber. They move it back to closer to your eyes to get a longer sight radius. A little easier to use that way. So that is the main update for World War II. But that is, for units in the Pacific at least, that is the most common or almost exclusively used weapon. By the time you get into the torch landings, most, if not all, of the American infantry is equipped with the M1 Garands. Now, up and through to the end of the war, you can see, like in the Battle of the Bulge, where you have, cooks and artillerymen forced into the front lines. Some of those guys are carrying 1903 Springfields, because a lot of people whose jobs that weren't to pull a trigger, at least not on a rifle or a machine gun, were issued with the 1903s, just because you're hopefully never going to need them. It's just to have a rifle. And they also produced them in fairly large numbers and shipped them to China throughout the war. So they keep in production, to the best of my knowledge, through to the end of the war, the U.S.A. But I so much would rather have a M1 Garand than an 03. So much. Just a semi-auto rifle versus a bolt action. And if you're doing a sniper rifle, and they also did sniper rifles in the 03, yeah, that's okay. You know, just because you're going slower. You're dealing with it, you know, at ranges and target times that you hopefully don't need to shoot fast. Oh, well, we had a really good movie night last night, Arno. You missed that. That was good. We watched Where Eagles Dare. Hey, guys. I don't know that it sucked. The M1D? I haven't heard specifically that it sucked. I have not shot one or anything, but no problem. No need to be sorry. It's you missed out, not not so much us. Okay, so we have some heavy cruisers, right? Looks like crap. Yeah. Well. I'm wondering, I do want an Atlantic fleet here. We already have that cruiser. What do we have out here for? Okay, I think we will split these. Between the two battleship divisions. No, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to send these over to here. Now, I don't know with the mod if they're going to force a Pearl Harbor on me, even if I don't have any ships in Pearl Harbor. Hey, Vigil? Good to have you here. I mean, it's standard, but not. Yeah, well. I think the M1 Garand makes a decent sniper rifle. It may not be the best sniper rifle by any means, but I think it makes a decent one. And I keep thinking about conditions and situations with small arms and how I would want to use them. If I'm looking at World War II and where we had in most cases, a sufficient numbers of divisions, units, whatever you want to call them, battling the Germans, to having some guys with their very accurized 1903s with scopes on them, set up so that they can't take stripper clips. So you got to load one round each time. You're probably pretty good because you can sort of pick and choose where you want to be a sniper, try to get into positions that are, favorable. And if you're being a sniper, at least God, I don't know all the combat situations, the millions of combat situations soldiers were in during the war. But I'm sort of picturing the idea that when you're sort of the company sniper, you're not going to be one of the guys ordered to assault some position. You're not going to be, oh yeah, you're in the squad that's going to assault the trenches or the machine gun position. So you go, okay, you're not going to be that way, so you don't need a semi-auto weapon. So you can go to sort of, well, hey, you're going after that machine gun position. Well, I'm going to go over here, wherever here is, and get a good, line of sight on it to try to snipe the machine gun position or other friendly, other enemy supporting units to the machine gun position. So you get there, whether you're crawling or running or just walking because it's behind a hill or hedgerow or something, but you get there and you get sort of set up, if you will, not elaborately but just enough, and you take shots when you want to. And if you start to think you've shot too many times from your position, you change positions, and you're sort of, to some degree, doing what you want on the conditions that you find favorable. So you're sort of in charge of yourself, if you will. Now, you may be given very much directions like suppress that machine gun position or watch that flank or whatever. It's not that you get to saunter about the battlefield and do whatever the hell you feel like. You're given direction, but you're sort of independently managing yourself more so with that type of weapon. Now, if I'm picturing myself in Korea and the masses of Chinese attacking you and the desperate situations that the Americans got themselves into. Not entirely, MacArthur's fault on the battlefield sense, not MacArthur's fault in the sense that, I know he's basically fired over this, but that the Chinese come into the war. He was being victorious, and then the Chinese entered the Korean War. And if I was in that situation, I would want, even if I was the sniper, I would want a semi-automatic rifle because, being charged at by thousands of angry Chinese, having a semi-auto rifle would be good, and precise shooting would be lower priority for me. So, it's situational. Okay, structural improvements here. Okay, that's one and done. And close air support prototype. And that's grayed out, of course. So we will do medium fuel tank and twin engine. All those going to being upgraded. And sniper weapons are a specialty weapon by definition. And you need to take in the battlefields that you're likely to find to judge what specialty weapons you want to have. Where the M1 Garand is a general service weapon, needing to serve basically in all conditions. Yes, we're going to do the heavy armor. Arno. Tungsten, South Africa. Okay, we'll do that. Bismarck is launched. There you go. That way we can now do that. And that to, oh no, wrong group, wrong group. I don't want to slow you up with heavy cruisers. I don't know if they really would slow it up, but battleship division. Firepower division. We may switch out some of the carriers once we get light carriers, but I want to keep a carrier with each of these two battleship groups. Okay, hell on wheels. Hell on wheels. President, shall we form the division headquarters for the 2nd Armored Division Hell on Wheels at Fort Benning, Georgia? Historically, the 2nd Armored Division Hell on Wheels was an armored division of the United States Army. Played an important role during World War II invasions of North Africa and Sicily, liberating France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and the invasion of Germany. Second formed. Yes, excellent. Excellent. So we now have 2nd Armored Division headquarters. We've got a bot here. No, I don't think we're gonna. Well, okay, we're gonna save this here and end the episode. We don't want to get these have be too long. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. Please post questions, comments, suggestions, tips below. I love hearing from you. See you next time for yes, more Hearts of Iron. Now, click. Okay, we're going to keep going here with the live stream, but I'm going to just get something to drink and be right back before we continue. So hang on just a moment. Okay, let's continue this. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, and if this is your first visit here, please, I hope I earn you hitting that subscribe button, and of course I hope everyone will desire to hit that like button. We're going to be continuing here with Hearts of Iron, playing U.S.A. Now, I have not been doing this because I'm going to test this now, because it reduces peacetime consumer good needs, and currently we don't need any peacetime consumer goods. So, but let's see, does it like spam? I may just go back and go to the save that I just made. If this doesn't, money shortage, yeah, okay. Um, yeah, okay, we're gonna go back and um, reload. So I just wanted to test, see if it also gave out. Yeah, I know your screen is black. Don't worry, we're still here. See if it gave out any other like additional industry. So no, that was just a test. Sometimes those trigger a another thing and pop up some industry. Okay, single player, load to save. And we'll take a look at the war in Europe. Okay, let's take a look at the war in Europe. The Dutch are barely holding out with Amsterdam and Rotterdam. The Belgians are about ready to have Brussels surrounded, and the Germans are getting ready to push into France. That is the conditions of the war in Europe right now. We're at peace in America. Encryption machines, good. Continue developing our bombers for when we get ready to produce them. Mexico money, tungsten, all right. Heavy bomber pilot training. Let's move that over to here. Mass pilot training. Ground crew. And machine gun focus, which I think is what is giving us 2 for advance and research. And we do CAG deck crew training. Oh, what? Gun position twin engine airplanes. Okay. Yes. Do some interception tactics. Twin engine pilot. Hmm. Oh. Oh, yeah. I know I get that canceled. I guess I. No. No, I didn't get that canceled. There we go. There we go. That's the right amount. Ground crew. Hmm. Yeah, we're gonna do nav tactics. And South Africa wants a submarine. Fine. Light armor designs. So we can do special purpose armor. But I think that may be... Oh no, it's 1940. Okay, we should do that. The U.S. did have a bunch of special purpose armor. They're Amtraks, they're amphibious tracks. Okay, I think we're gonna postpone resource training, or trading, I should say, not training, trading. Hello, son. How are you doing? Okay, so we're now have more chromite. Long range submarine classes, very good. No, thank you, Arno. I'm not gonna get in a war early. No, we're not buying supplies from Costa. And your country can't be saved at this point. We'll save it eventually. We save it eventually. And it just gotta go through occupation first. You know, look. Why does the cavalry always come and save you in the nick of time? Well, if they got there before you were in such danger, you wouldn't appreciate the cavalry. It'd be like, hey, yeah, what are you doing riding around here? Oh, keeping the bad guys away, the Indians, whoever. No, no, you've got to come in. Well, we're about ready to get overrun. Oh, here comes the cavalry. You know, coming in and saving the day. Well, for you to appreciate us, you know, for the world to appreciate us, we have to come in and save the day. So if we had just like joined World War II right off, and you'd be going, America, what's it good for? You know, they're just always over here messing around with things. But you see, we let them take over. See, we're going to let Putin take over, you know, half of Europe again, and then we're going to help save the other half. So that way, you know, we look good, and you'll appreciate us more. You know, that's how it works. We just got, ooh, some CVLs. Okay. Those are fast light cruiser, or cruiser carriers. The Independence here. And we will put Princeton here. So what we're going to do now is, is it really that much at Oceanside? I guess so. Okay. Independence. Oh, it's he's down in San Diego. So Princeton and Battleship Division 1 are. Oh no, didn't get. We're going to get the Lexington out. And we're going to put the Princeton in. And that way we can then these and get that, which Um. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Well, let's. Oh no, that's in the right place. It's in the right place. Okay, so we have here. We need some more CAGs, but I know that anyways. And close support. And you can have yes. And here we're going to do something similar. I'm going to move the Saratoga out. The Independence in. And move up that one. This one up here, so we will now have period. Hello, Kyle. Wear the enemy out and then attack? Yeah, always a good idea. Okay, now we have one more. And I think we're going to put that into the town. Yeah. No, that's not what I wanted. Okay, nope. Oh, where is it now? Did it get over? I hit the wrong thing. Okay, okay, that's the Langley. Atlantic Squadron, no. Hate losing these things. Okay, that's the Princeton is supposed to be there, I think. The Bielo wood. Okay, no, it did get to the right spot. Oh, it did get to the right spot. Okay. Ah, no, okay. Good. And that's coming up to Saratoga. Okay, yes. Screen ended. No, here. Okay. We want to put that and the Yorktown here. So now we have massive air fleet. 4 main carriers and 1 light carrier. We still need to get some more ships with some decent escort. Battleship group with a carrier, though no a light carrier, but no CAGs yet. And similarly here, so we will do it. Thank you so much, Arno. Okay, improve security units. Nice. France. We would give them money for supplies. Okay, if they want to sell us supplies, I'm hoping it is because they want the money and not because they think we need the supplies. Fighter pilot training. Now I haven't even started putting radars out into the Pacific. in a basis. Okay, good. We're getting through some of these. I'm not going super strong on any of it, just basically upping a lot of the fort levels, pillboxes and beach defenses and whatnot. But just by one. Self-propelled artillery brigades, which are grayed out. Good. Small arms advance. Good, but that opens up here, so let's do these two. Fighter bomber prototypes. Grayed out. Good, and we'll do 4-engine armament research and twin-engine fighter prototypes. Now let's do tank destroyers. The M10s. Well, I don't know that I can build any radars out here because this is not my territory, so I can't. Yes, I would love some radar out here. I can build it here, but I can't build it in the Philippines. So you are right, but engine limitations, I guess. World HE gun. Not something I would really consider the Americans doing much of, but I figured we should at least research it. Well, let's do this. It reduces time between attacks, nothing else. Okay. Yes, you can have metal. Yes, you can have metal. Super heavy battleship classes advance. I don't know that I'm going to go beyond doing that once. Just having an armor piercing cap advance. No, we have a little more. Okay, destroyer classes advance. Nice. Maybe we're getting into the Fletchers. Let's do Hufta. Get that. Carrier aircraft prototypes. Good. Let's get some of these. Now let's look over here. Yeah, anti-air here. That'll be important. And we got gyro sites, good. I think that's a one and done. So let's do heavy AA for carriers. We want to protect our carriers. Yeah, let's take a look at that. No, okay, yes, you can have oil. Currently, our DDs are the Fletchers. Yes, the Fletchers. Okay, they're not absolutely the best during World War II, but they were definitely a bit later in the war, and even some earlier. They did make some destroyers, America did, that were a bit wider, and they had 3 gun turrets, each with 2 guns, for a total of 6 guns, where the Fletcher had 5 gun turrets, each single one. So, and definitely in games like War Thunder, you definitely have some better destroyers of World War II. But I do think the Fletchers are sort of the best. And why do I think that? They were just enough. Just enough. Just big enough. You know, they wanted to go originally with 12 torpedoes mounted on it, but that was going to make the ship a bit top heavy. They were able to add more 40 millimeter, add more as time went on, add more 40 millimeter guns to it. Early ones just didn't even have the 20 millimeters. They only had 50 cals, but they got to where you had what was it, 4 mountings of double 40 millimeters and 7 20 millimeter guns, and the 5 inch guns, all in single mountings. And one thing that does do have them in the individual mountings allows them to be better anti-aircraft guns. And early war, you have timed fuses, so that you would, as you got ready to before you put the round into the chamber, you stuck it into another sort of chamber-like thing that would set the fuse, and then you would put it into the gun. So you just click, boom, just do that real fast. And that was being reset by right up here on the top. There's a sort of a rotating box up there that's part of the fire control computer. It's a analog, non-electronic. It's a mechanical computer. Very expensive, rather big. A lot of it is being held down in the hull, and it's like calculating aircraft positions and constantly updating things. Where you're pointing the gun, but also updating the timer for the fuses to explode nearby the aircraft. So you have 5 different guns firing at the aircraft coming in, which can mean that some are being controlled centrally, and some of them, because they may be pointing in different directions, being controlled independently. And so the guns can, really, they're dual purpose. They're very effective. Late in the war, you're starting to see proximity fuses. So just get close enough to the aircraft, and the charge goes off. They have rather good anti-submarine warfare capabilities. We got 10 torpedo tubes, which later in the war, with when they're mainly looking at the Pacific, and it was specifically designed for the Pacific. It's a flush deck destroyer, so the destroyer, the deck is the same deck level from the front all the way to the back, which is just fine, and it's great for the Pacific. Probably the best for the Pacific. But a lot of the Atlantic ships, and particularly the British ones, and some American destroyers designed for the Atlantic, will have a higher deck in the front, because the Atlantic is a much rougher ocean. And so they would account for that. Making a higher deck in front, there's some downsides. Yeah, sure, you got a little more volume of space internally, but if you're going to have 2 gun turrets, well, you want them both to be able to fire generally forward, so you've got to make the second gun turret also higher, so that moves your center of gravity of your ship higher. So displacement or weight of the ship totally, the total overall displacement does matter. But part of what it matters is the more weight you have higher, the more top heavy that ship becomes, and you need to either put more weight down in the bottom to counterbalance it, or you get a a ship that's unstable. Now, ultimately, it could be so unstable that, just sitting there would capsize. Well, I don't think anything that they were even dreaming of doing on the Fletchers would have just done that. But if you make it a little too heavy up top, you get the situation when rough seas it could capsize. If you're making violent maneuvers or other things out there that you could capsize the vessel. You just don't, you want that, you don't want to make it just barely stable, you want to make it very stable. So by having it flush deck, you've removed some weight of the ship to be able to mount these guns on them. So it works out to be a very good design. It's not perfect, obviously. They partially significant. I mean, they use the Fletchers even when some of the other gunned ships that, like in War Thunder, you see, hey ZZ, that you might think that they would continue using more. No, they continue using the Fletchers partially because it's a large class, well after World War II, and they're updated with better radars and electronic controls and things like that over time. But and destroyers get bigger too, bigger displacement. But bigger displacement means, again, more mass, more resistance in going through the water. So this is just really sort of the perfect balance, not the best at any one thing of any of the classes of destroyers in World War II, but just sort of the best balanced out between all of the roles. Oh, like I was saying, they removed one of the torpedo sets of torpedo launchers for not all of them, not even, I don't think, most of them, but some of the later production or ones that were going back in for a refit, because they were seeing the situation in the Pacific that you probably weren't going to have too many large fleet actions and needing to shoot out a lot of torpedoes at enemy shipping, and they wanted them primarily to be more escorts for either convoys, troop convoys, supply convoys, those kind of things, or escorting things like carriers. And with that, the big thing they wanted to do is add anti-aircraft. So I think even some of them might have gone down to 4 guns. But definitely getting rid of the rear set of torpedoes allowed you to mount more 40 millimeter and 20 millimeter guns on the thing to just put up more flak. So yeah, I mean, they varied. There was even, I think, 5 of the early Fletchers had was it 2? I think 2 of the rear turrets were removed, so it was just down to 3 turrets. They actually put a catapult on it to launch an aircraft. And they found very quickly that, yeah, worked just fine. Wasn't perfect, it's sort of a small ship, crane, whatever, to launch and recover the spotter aircraft, which the best was the SOC Seagull was the best the Americans had, better than some of the of its replacements. But yeah, didn't need it. It just either the cruisers that it was operating with had, or battleships had spotting aircraft, or there was just enough carriers and other things. So the idea of putting a spotter on it, so they were all at one point brought back into dry dock, whatever, and the catapults removed and the original gun configuration added to the 5, I think it was, that had the catapults for the aircraft. So yeah, that is what we're up to now that we've upgraded. So these earlier ones, which we're not going to cancel, I think they're still going to be useful, and I just don't want to waste the production time on it. Okay, so we're going to get through hopefully some of these are meant to go fast, like the beach defenses. Okay, and pillboxes. So okay, beach defense, pillbox, fortress. Let's move that up. We'll get the beach defenses and the pillboxes done faster than the coastal forts or the fortresses on the islands. We'll get those done Amphibious unit training advance. Okay, yes, our Marines. Okay, 41. That's good enough. So cancel that. Now, yeah, airborne unit. We haven't even put any production. We very likely will. Okay, division HQs. Is that over here? No, that is here. Okay, yeah, not that we can't do. We can do 41, but let's focus on things we can do efficiently. I really like that these reduce times between attacks as well. Yeah, sure. Having more HQs of cool types are nice, but no delay or less delays between attacks is very good. Yes, you complete oil. Uh-oh. The Netherlands have been conquered. Netherlands have fallen. Belgium is soon, and they're pushing into France. Export of copper to who? Cuba. No, we're doing okay, I think, on money, and it was a short contract for oil there, Ireland. And desert unit training, which I think is a one and done. Yes. Good, okay. Well, the Germans moved out of here enough that the Belgians or somebody pushed out. Okay, hydrophones. Let's do. And so, yes, small warship, anti-aircraft artillery control computer, like I was just talking about, they had. They even set up for the 40 millimeters guns on it, a smaller sort of aiming computer system for those as well, more than just simply the gun sights that was calculating all of that. The 20 mils were the sort of the largest ones that they never did a during the World War II. That is a sort of additional guidance, if you will, of what sort. I'm on target. Well, yeah, let's come over here and continue to upgrade our anti-aircraft artillery on our ships so they don't get sunk by aircraft. Okay, who are we trading with? Canada. Okay, yes, you can have Canada. You can have and money, gold. Okay. Okay, artillery firepower focus. I think that might be yes. Okay, we've got all three of the AAs being researched for carriers. So let's come over to our next big valuable ships that we want to protect. So do the light artillery. Firepower focus. Yes, you can have crude oil. Maybe it'll last a little while. Now, okay, we have more than enough coal. For now, at least. Wow, that did come through 88 base of coal in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We have quite a bit of rare materials, lots and lots of oil, but not a whole lot of um, metal. And as soon as we get back a bunch of those things, uh, modifiers there, we're going to need more metal. So I know we got plenty now, and we'll be plenty for quite some time, but I just don't like red up there at the top. So okay, we're gonna wait till we're a little over 23,000 there. Do that. Okay. Yeah, we'll continue this because this will help our garrisons on some of those islands be better. And yes. Yes, and this is why, because we have pop-up things for money. I want to make sure. So now my goal is to get a little over 22 because we just had one of those. Okay, so reorganize the war ministry. Export of Venezuela, no. And now that we are over 22, we will do this, which will get us down to 2,000. More steel. Okay, metal in Buffalo. Buffalo, Ohio, I believe. This is Ohio. Let's go to industry view here. Columbus, Cleveland, Toledo. It's not Buffalo. Maybe it's not. No, this is Ohio. Oh, here. No, no. Okay, yeah, you're wondering why does Gamer not know his own? Was it Buffalo, New York? Mm-hmm. Yeah, here we go. Buffalo, New York. Okay. Gamer doesn't know his geography. Well, look, guys, you gotta understand. I'm from over here, right around this area specifically, okay? Hung out in LA, Oceanside. That's where I've sort of hung out most of my life. And I really dig history, everyone. I read a lot of history. So, things have happened along here, like the American Revolution. And down here, also the American Revolution, lots of action going down here. Yorktown is, is sort of right here, I believe. It's a lot of stuff happened here. And then, of course, the American Civil War happens, down here. And so read a lot about battles and, campaigns, the Valley Campaign of Stonewall Jackson and whatnot. But if you get into parts of America where there isn't a lot of history going on, I get a bit weak, on that because it just hasn't been much history to play for. Okay, so here, okay, well, we didn't up the steel refineries here because there wasn't much steel or metal. So we did do the coal, which got our coal going well, and we sort of needed that back at the time. But so we're going to get 30 more metal here plus 2 more. So good. Wild time. Build up because it sort of reacts as if it's been bomb damaged, if you will. Okay, give them crude oil, certainly. And what here? Rolling artillery barrages. Okay. Here and look at a cruiser light. Okay, we'll do that. So yeah, the more boring the history for an area, the less I know its geography in most cases. Ah, okay. And the yeah. The Great Dictator, Chaplin's The Great Dictator. Good movie. Of course, it's a anti-Hitler Mussolini movie that features not direct references to Hitler and Mussolini, but we can obviously see the the Hitler mustache on the character there, and they use instead of the swastika, it is the double cross, is what that is. Like to double cross people. That never understood in Hearts of Iron 4. If they have so much steel while the U.S. has very little, should be the opposite, with Germany being more dependent on Swedish steel. Okay, Kyle. Well, I have some first-hand knowledge of the development of it for Hearts of Iron 4 and that, and probably shouldn't even say what little I do, I am going to say on it. Resources are very well researched for Hearts of Iron 4. I have, in a minor way, contributed to it, including recently with some more stuff for oil in Hearts of Iron 4. I know the main researcher there, and I found some more oil. Though because it's a game and the way they're looking at it is they're not adding more oil. They found some figures of, I forget what year, 39, 36, I think it was 36, globally figures. Now are those and so then they take that as a baseline and then proportion it out from these, what areas were producing, total world production of crude oil in, I think, 1936 from some period source. Now, is that source correct or not? That's another question. But so they take that out, that as a baseline, and how many barrels here, how many barrels there, and or thousands of barrels or whatever, and then from that proportion out the amount of crude oil in the game. So when I find another oil field, they don't increase the amount of oil, they reduce it somewhere else and move it, add some over there because it was in a strategic location in Burma. Found some crude oil there, major oil fields that weren't in Hearts of Iron 4, where it really doesn't matter exactly where the oil fields are, say in the U.S. Like, missed some oil fields somewhere out here, because there are oil fields out in Pennsylvania. Still to this day, we think of as Texas and other places, but so it really wouldn't matter where the balance of oil within the U.S. so much, but it would matter here because Japan can get it. It helps them out. And so they found some good figures, and they went around and based it off of that, and they've done a lot of research, and they try to put it into the right locations with if they're doing enough volume, because I did, and then the guy I know, I'm blanking on his name, it's up in here, and then there's also some up in here too, but went and also did a little bit of research there and confirmed what I brought out as being enough that it should be on the map, as opposed to some small oil well. I'm talking about oil for the moment, and I know you mentioned steel. The resource system in Hearts of Iron 4 has a lot of good with it. A lot of good with it. I have some quibbles with not just like placement of where the oil is or something. Some of the conceptual things. Stockpiling is way overdone here. Okay, it is way overdone, even for the U.S. in this stockpile. It is overdone. But they did stockpile more than from I think it was either in the book or the documentary. It was a joint publication called The Prize, and it was done in the 90s. And the prize is of the 20th century, which is oil. And it looks at it, and they estimated in this documentary that Germany captures, they captured the French oil reserves in coming in basically intact, that are in France, whether they were in, occupied France or in unoccupied France, but Germany got it all. That their estimation is that it was enough operations for the total Wehrmacht for 1 year, which the Wehrmacht, of course, means the Luftwaffe, the Kriegsmarine, and the Heers, all three together. So they captured that much oil. So there's that much reserves in France. And I don't think Black Ice, I mean, they do allow you some reserves. And like, as in Hearts of Iron 4, I should say Hearts of Iron 4, not Black Ice. Hearts of Iron 4, they do allow you some levels of reserves, but this is too big, but theirs is too small. It's sort of, pendulum. It swing too far the other direction. But it is a good system. I do like the way it works, and it is much more dependent upon, like if you want to do aircraft, you need more aluminum, but if you're going to do tanks, you don't need aluminum, you need steel. Things like that, as opposed to this is just whatever you're producing needs the same ratio of these things, so it doesn't matter. And now that they finally got oil away from production and into actually fueling tanks and aircraft and ships and whatnot, it's good now. When it first came out, that was bad. So it's gotten better. So knowing and being part of some of you get in a minor way, and I want to stress minor way, just a little bit here, a little bit there, with research on resources. They're doing a pretty good job. Now, Germany and steel. Okay. Nobody has enough steel to do everything. Even the U.S. has to make choices as to, ship production. What type of ships to produce? Do you produce Liberty ships, or do you produce battleships, or do you produce submarines, or landing ships, or destroyers, or whatever? Eventually you can't, to a point you could, and they were expanding, dockyards and training up more and more workers and doing more and more production. But to a point, even America gets to where it has to make choices on the allocation of steel. Germany is somewhat dependent upon Swedish steel. Build only submarines, all hail submarines. Yeah, for some games things it may sort of work, but not in real life, of course. There is one area in Hearts of Iron 4 that is technically wrong, and I support it. And that is Swedish and the steel situation. They add a lot of tungsten to Sweden. Sweden, or Wolfram, however you want to say it, basically doesn't have any of that. Why is it there then? Well, they really don't know now, and it's sort of surprising that they don't know now. But the Swedish steel, steel itself, in and of itself, is an alloy, because it is an alloy of iron and carbon. But most iron is not pure. I mean, you could purify it, but most iron is not pure. What they believe, and they don't know the ratios, but they believe the iron that was being mined up here and turned into steel had tungsten in it. But it wasn't really so much steel that was coming out of here. There was steel coming out of here, absolutely, and in largest amounts. But what was critical about the Swedish steel, was high quality steel. You can make. You got all this oil over here. That's good. That's correct. it's high quality steel, and to the point to be used for critical steel elements like rifle, like gun, like tank gun barrels, or machine tool, the cutting bits on the machine tools, where you might want to be either using tungsten or tungsten enriched steel for the cutting bits. So the Swedish steel really isn't that big of a dependent upon that for Germany. Germany really, in my opinion, is not dependent upon Swedish steel for just pure steel. They have lots of iron mines. Now, I'm not the greatest expert in the world, and you can definitely, which I do like about Hearts of Iron 4, and we can see that they've sort of made this somewhat like Hearts of Iron 4 by adding like steel mills into places. You can expand steel and whatnot production. They don't use energy in Hearts of Iron 4. But you can expand it. And so, in reality, steel, all you need is two resources, iron and coal. Germany has plenty of coal. Germany has plenty of iron. Again, I'm not the greatest expert, but I do believe that all they've got to do is expand mining to do it, to get it out. I mean, it doesn't create more there, but just get more of it out quicker for the time period of the war, which of course would require some more tools to do it efficiently. Part of it can just be picks and shovels, but using explosives and pneumatic, sort of jackhammer type, but drill bits going in, doing some modern adding more modern mining equipment. Now, of course, we do see the use of slave labor with picks and shovels, whether mining, the Germans do, or creating underground factory tunnels, just the most crude use types for stuff that is wasteful. And of course, evil the way they were using it, but just also wasteful. But which, is adding more and, setting up, running rails, but you can pull up once you sort of don't need a section anymore. Rails in the mines with mine cars to get the stuff out. So a bit more industry to get more coal and get more iron ore out. Then you need to refine the iron, so you need more iron refineries, and then you can build more steel refineries. And Germany could do all of that. Now that takes away from building other things like tanks and aircraft. But Germany really is not dependent upon outside sources for a base level of functional iron and base level of steel. And we can see and you can look at some of the photographs before they pour the concrete of all of the rebar. They put in all of the, first the west wall and then the Atlantic wall that Germany is building. Not just the guns mounted on them, a bunch of the guns are, captured thing, leftover World War I guns that France, big guns that France had or whatever that they stuck in it too. But they're able to get enough rebar and other things to build all these bunkers, and they also build fortifications in the east. And they've got a lot of steel and a lot of iron that's just okay. Maybe doesn't make it good because it needs to go through another treatment process to start making good armored, elements, for like tank armor and whatnot. But they've got lots of steel, not enough to do everything they want ever. They have to make choices. Oh, Germany lost here, got pushed out of here again. Okay. So it's not like unlimited amounts or enough to do everything they want. But Germany really isn't that dependent upon sheer amounts of steel. So the decision was made to simulate the sort of special steel that was coming out of here with putting it to being tungsten, along with the tungsten that was down in Portugal. We can see some here, and there was also some in Spain. I don't know if any of it made it to if it's as big at deposits, but there was some tungsten in Spain as well. And so they decided to simulate that here. So now U.S. has very little. Well, maybe you should, and I've not played, this is the first time I'm playing U.S. in Hearts of Iron, period, in 3 or 4. So I've not played the U.S. But maybe you just need to make more steel factories. Get those going. Get those producing in America. Because I do believe it has enough natural resources if you do that. So yeah, that's sort of the story of steel and or generally resources within Hearts of Iron 4. And I like I say, I have some, the main quibble is I totally agree that this is over stockpiling, but I think they've gone too far the other way. But yeah, no, they're doing a very good job of it. How do I put this? I don't trust the period analysis of things like oil production in 1936. Why don't I trust it? And I know it's, and I'm not saying, oh well, okay, I don't because I forget who, but I read their original source material that they were using for it. Okay, and that's sort of what the amount of oil produced in 1936. Well, look, people, oil production is partially a dependent upon need. So if you go 1936 and go, well, they were producing, 1 million barrels a day of oil. Okay, in the world, you add up all the stuff. So that's the baseline. And then if you want to increase oil production, you have to, build oil wells and do these other things and do the sort of research tree thing to expand it, blah, 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 blah. No, that is not real world how it works, people. That is not how it works. I have a family, I've never worked in the oil industry, but I have a family background in oil, and I've, talked to many family the family members who have worked in the oil industry, and that's not how it works. What it is, especially in this, 1930s something, 1936 particularly, Standard Oil is Standard Oil. It is the Standard Oil. It has getting near a monopoly of oil in America. Well, they're not going to produce more oil than they think they're going to sell. And they're not going to pull it out of the ground and store it in big tanks if they don't think they're going to sell it. They're still going to drill and get more oil wells to a point because you want to find and locate more oil for the future. But they were drilling and capping oil wells. Oh man, we found, gusher, cap it down, close it. Okay, take that, exploration drill, go somewhere else, look for another oil field, and just leave it capped and not pull anything out of it. Now Germany, who is in need of oil and does have some natural oil up and around here, and is trying to expand its synthetics, does try to develop a strategic oil reserve, but they're importing and producing all the oil that they can. So they are. But places like the Soviet Union and Baku, if they can't ship the damn oil out of here, because the ship, literally the ships or the pipelines, can't move any more oil. You can only move, 100,000 barrels of oil a day out of Baku. They aren't going to produce any more oil out of Baku. But that doesn't mean that they literally can't. Some guy walk over there, get a big wrench hammer thing, and unscrew a valve, and out comes more oil right now. Okay? Now, yeah, I already said that the oil may be maxed out in its pipelines, but maybe not, because, again, the Soviet Union is having economic problems and is not overly industrialized. They're trying to, how many tractors do they have? How many automobiles they have? How many trucks do they have? Some, absolutely, but not huge numbers. So they only need so much oil in 1936. They're not running all of their Air Force 24/7, fighting the Germans or somebody. I mean, they do have some skirmishes on their borders, but they're not doing that much in 1936. They're not driving all their tank divisions. They're not driving all of their trucks around in 1936, their military trucks, every day as much as they can. So, yes, I know this is a bit of a rant here, but the equivalent of these things that increase oil refining, steel production, through the tree, is part of the idea of expanding the, not just the literal, how many oil wells are drilled and whatnot, but also, pipelines and tankers and rail tankers, But look, you don't need a rail car that has a big tank on it to move oil. You just use 50-gallon oil drums and stack them on rail cars and go. Pour them out at the other end, and then when the train comes back, they come back with empty 50-gallon drums and just keep filling them up. It's not terribly efficient, but you can just do that. So I don't trust. I understand that this is a game, and when you find a new oil field, okay, well, we'll just adjust this, because we'll just take the oil down a little bit from over here. That's probably, there's probably too much, and then add it to this here, and so you don't add any more oil. Okay. But I found this. And here, I found this. This is now in black ice. This was, and they also added the coal here too, the coal and oil. This was a bunch of oil that you dig with shovels out of the ground, basically. You don't do oil wells, you mine this oil, and then you squeeze it, basically. It's sort of like in a mushy clay kind of configuration. But they could also just burn the mushy clay. That's why there's coil. Coil, together coil. That's why there's also coal here for energy, because Estonia, and then they're occupied by the Soviet Union or occupied by Germany, continues to just use it as a burning in a similar way that you would use coal, shoveling it into furnaces to make heat and boil water and generate electricity and whatnot. So it was used as a unchanged from coming out of the ground, basically, was used as a coal substitute. But they were, especially early on, the Germans, after World War I, when this was sort of being discovered up here, was very interested in developing it, even when there were cheaper ways of getting oil out of the ground, because, well, it's up here, and maybe if you're going to war again with Britain and France, but maybe not the Soviet Union, that might be a secure rear area supply of oil for Germany. So mainly this was developed by when it was Estonia, by German-owned development companies that were partially owned or whatever by Estonia, but and the Germans, whole lot of stuff there. So, hail Dutch submarines in World War II. Yes, thanks Arna for that. And so here, does this, in the 1936 estimation of how much oil is available in the world, well, they're producing out here mainly for local consumption and a bit of regional consumption, for oil here, but not much. But I don't know that any of this was totaled into the whatever global survey that some company did of oil production. So I think they're playing a little too much of a zero-sum game in Hearts of Iron 4. I know this is a game and not a simulation. I know that, but I do think capabilities of oil fields were not being fully utilized, and I think the research time is overdone in some cases. So that's sort of my rant on resources, and I think generally they're doing a good job in Hoi 4 on that. Okay, single engine air. Grayed out, good. What I wonder is where the hell the Hungarians were getting all their alumina from for their aluminum manufacturing. That's one thing I haven't looked into yet, really. Yes, certainly. Rare materials, yes, certainly. Okay, well, let's give this a save. And we're going to end the episode, not the live stream, but the episode. I want to thank everyone watching very much for liking the videos. If you've got any questions, comments, tips, the Belgians, French, whoever, pushing back, you're a bit good. Please post them below. Love hearing from you. See you next time for, yes, even more Hearts of Iron. Okay, everyone, we're going to be making another episode here in just a moment, but I will be right back to continue. So hang loose if you like. All right, almost back. Okay. Let's make another episode here. Yeah, we're lowish on money, but not too bad. All right. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, and I'm really having fun playing as America, and this is interesting for me because I've never done this before. So there's a lot new to me here. Literally, I've started America a couple of times and played a few months into 1936, but never played like this. So like I said, this is all new to me. Now, I want to continue this series, and viewership has been fairly poor. I'm taking the hit on the YouTube channel, which overall affects the YouTube channel growth and everything else. But I really hope if you guys want to see this series go through to a good conclusion, conquer Germany, conquer Japan, that kind of conclusion, I will need good viewership, because it's going to take a long time to get there to play through, because we're sort of speeding through, other than my ranting about things, speeding through these pre-war years, for America at least. I will need your help in hitting the like button, making comments. You can make two sets of comments, because it's just the number of comments, it's engagement, it helps bring it up. When you get done watching this episode, start it over again. You can turn the audio off and minimize the screen and go on and watch something else on YouTube or play some other game. Just sort of forget about it and let it run in the background or something like that. Really, if you want to see the American series go through to a conclusion, because I know some people complain, hey, gamer, you don't finish this, you don't finish that. Yeah, I know, and a big part of it is just not enough interest. And I've got, there's no point in killing the channel just to complete a series, because 20 diehards or 30 diehards want to watch the whole damn thing, or otherwise they don't want to play it if I'm not getting good views. So please, everyone, if you're interested in wanting to see how we do things a bit different than historically in America, please do make comments, like the videos, share the videos on other social media. It will really help and make the series go longer. And hello, Ragar. Got a lot of schadenfreude by watching today Ukraine offensive, hearing about EU introducing 7th package of attempts to ruin itself, so decided to get some relaxation and watch this. Well, cool. Missed quite a bit of this series. Have annoying, unrealistic revolts stopped? Yes, ZZ, we have. One of the big things we have got here now is feared National Police Building. So I produced the J. Edgar Hoover building, which I think was made in the 70s, which is still what it's called, even though the now controversial history of J. Edgar Hoover in Washington, D.C., which I have visited and went on a tour once of the building, a guided tour many years ago as an older kid, in some of my teen years. I forget, I remember a lot of it. They took us down to the shooting range and, demonstrated shooting and whatnot. It was set up for tours, at least at that time. So we've done that. So that got us another 5%. So we are now in the green everywhere. So now I've not had the scripted ones too much recently, Strike Here and a bunch of revolts. Those may still be happening, ZZ, but they are not happening as frequently now. So I don't know whether just what's changed for sure on the scripted ones, whether they just don't have them. Now back to Ragar. I'm not going to go too long. Yeah, I was seeing within the last 24 hours, Biden was saying, well, Ukraine may have to negotiate, or may have to give up land in negotiations to get peace. And I have a friend who lives in, who's Ukrainian and lives in Ukraine right now, and I'm in contact with him, about weekly, sometimes more often than that. And my first thought is, how do you like being an American puppet now? Because if America says you give up Ukrainian territory, you know what you do? You give up Ukrainian territory. Because otherwise, weapons stop coming in, money stops coming in, and maybe even stop having sanctions against Russia if you don't do what America says. So, Biden and his administration is running the things badly. Oh, the Pentagon was... Why? That's maybe the first time I've clicked on this. Why did they put the Pentagon here? If I'm not mistaken, the Pentagon was completed in 1946 or 47. I mean, I think it started or something, production of it like in 44 or 45. Not that you can. I think there may be a way. I don't know if there really is a way to change pictures by events, but maybe you can. I don't know. I'm not sure that you can. Now, maybe a picture of the Pentagon under construction might have been cool here, because the Pentagon is actually outside of Washington D.C. It's across the river. It's in Virginia. Not enough room to put it in Washington D.C., so they put it just literally across the river. You drive across the bridge and then into the Pentagon complex. So yeah, that wasn't here for most of World War II. So yeah, on Ukraine, I still think the Ukrainians are winning. Yeah, I notice I say I think because I don't trust Ukrainian. Ukrainian sources are often been wrong about their things, whether they're knowingly lying or just the chaos of war and, you know, any good news they put out, hoping it's true kind of thing. I don't trust any sides on that. You know, it's just watch and observe over a while. But you can be giving up ground, and the Russians, I almost said Soviets, but the Russians can be taking ground, and the Ukrainians can still be winning, because if you've got, you know, 500 enemy coming towards you, and even if you got 500 of you could fight and hold that line and take a lot of casualties, or you could just ambush them, kill a bunch of the enemy, and then fall back to another position. And yeah, you're giving up territory, but you could be, you know, making the enemy pay, you know, kill ratios of, you know, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1 or something against your enemy, you know, your loss, you know, one dead of yours to 5 of the enemy or something like that, by doing good tactics. And you may be giving up land, and it may be looking like the Russians are winning. And if they're willing to sustain the casualties and keep pushing, yeah, with those tactics, because Russia is a big place, they could eventually win. But tactically, the Ukrainians can be winning. And strategically, because bleeding them, you know, white, bleeding them dry, that could also be winning too. So even though the Russians are pushing in and taking territory and can be telling Putin and being published correctly, can be, but I don't trust the Russians either, correctly, you know, advances territorial control without quite being honest about the casualty levels. So even though I see, and this is what I, from day 4 or 5, literally day 4 or 5, I was very much of the opinion, I'm not, you know, yeah, position does matter, you know, yeah, if they take this isn't Kiev, where's Kiev? Kiev. They take Kiev, yeah, that's a big thing, but just that they were, you know, circling around some of it, yeah, it doesn't necessarily matter. It matters casualty ratios and tactically on the field. So 43, is that when you're saying starting the Pentagon building or something? Could be. I'm pretty sure it wasn't done then. Maybe I'm all wrong, Kyle. I can be wrong. I'm just going off of memory. So I think Ukraine's winning, and your 7th package of attempts to I don't know exactly what's that. Oh, finished in 43. Was it really? So I'm wrong. Okay, I can be wrong. I'm just going off of memories. I thought it was post-war. I thought it was post-war completed, because it was it was made as the War Department. Well, you know, there was the War Department until the end of World War II, and then it changed to the Defense Department. Started in 41, finished in 43. Okay, I'm wrong. Okay, Rhaegar, Kyle, I believe you. I always believe in Kyle because I'm figuring you're looking it up. You know, yeah, I'm believing you. Okay, I'm wrong. Gamer's wrong. I'm wrong. You know, I don't know everything. Okay, so that isn't so bad either. Okay, I thought it was post-war. Yeah, well, everybody has to remember, this is one thing that I think the world has forgotten. The world has forgotten. The U.S., the United States of America, has not been at war since 1945. They've participated in wars, absolutely. There was, the North Korean invasion of South Korea. Yes, the UN sent in intervention forces, and America was part of that. Yes, there was the war by North Korea to take over South Korea, and yes, America sends forces into Korea. Yes, America's attacked on 9/11, and they send forces into the into Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. They sort of declare war, though not officially, against Al-Qaeda. Well, we've pretty much decimated at least that original Al-Qaeda. But, but we have not, as a nation, has not been at war since 1945. And that is a major difference for every single thing. Only the United States Senate can declare war. Now, the United States Senate, along with the House of Representatives, has given, sort of over the Gulf of Tonkin and some other things, have given the president, I think, is up to 90 days to send military forces into somewhere in the world without their approval. After 90 days, I think it's that, maybe it's 60, I'm not sure, they have to get approval from Congress to continue the military intervention. But the president cannot declare war. I mean, he can invade a country, but he can't declare war because he can send forces in because they've given the president 90 days to fight a battle, but that isn't declaring war. So that needs to be, I wonder how many billions would they waste nowadays? Well, yeah, but it's just, so if America were really to get motivated by something ever again, like going to war, truly go to war, it would be a frightening thing. It would be a frightening thing. So you probably don't want to see that, even if you're friendly to America. For multiple reasons. Okay. And so if we were to, push something like a war effort to building some building like the Pentagon, we could get it done very soon because you don't need to go to have environmental studies like you'd have to do now. How would building the Pentagon or some building like that infect its local environment? We've got to do a study on it. No, we're going to do this over here. Where? Here? Okay, start digging, literally. That's the way it would, because with the war, all of those other sorts of requirements go away. And everybody's favorite, one way or another, favorite to like, favorite to complain about, Elon Musk recently tweeted I think it was 5 years, but it might have been 3 years. He just got his factory online in Texas, and I think it was in 5 years. Get his factory, but maybe it was 3 years. I'm not sure. If somebody wants to correct me now or later, they can. His Tesla factory going on in 5 years, let's just say. And he said, in California, we would still be worrying about the paperwork to start the start construction on it in that amount of time. And he knows because there is a Tesla factory in California that he went through and built. So he isn't just like BSing or bullshitting or, well, California, it must be worse. No, he knows because he's built he's built a Tesla factory in California. He's built a Tesla factory in Texas. You build the factory, build the total factory quicker than it does to even just get the paperwork done and the approvals done, environmental studies and approvals through the bureaucracies in California. So you wonder why all the industry is fleeing California. And so, yeah, America can be that fast if it wants to be. But America believes, enough of it believes, that humanity is of secondary importance to every other consideration. Oh, what's it going to do to the environment? You mean the raw sewage dumping into the river? Yeah, we all agree that raw sewage should not be dumped into the river. Or, radioactive material should not just be dumped out of a dump truck into a river. Yeah, we all agree upon that. But the pendulum has just swung so far to the other side that it is even harming the environment, because driving out, we don't want to actually add more industry. Driving out industry to, shall we say, places in the world that are going to have no controls over it, dumping radioactive material into a river, say like in China or something like that, or just literally sewage into the river untreated, they're going to just move the factories to there. So a lot of them, just to have it in a more secure economically environment, meaning you're not likely to be nationalized by the government or something like you might in China, they would be willing to put up with more regulation of all sorts in America versus putting it in China, say. But if you go too much regulation, then they've got to go somewhere else, whether it's a different state or a different country. And that is ultimately, so for your stated goals. Now, of course, I do actually believe their actual goals is deconstruction of America and covert revolution in America. I truly do believe that is at least some of the people's goals. And it looks like a much later period. And he looks awfully aged there compared to 1940, but I could be wrong on that too, when that photo was taken. Okay, President Roosevelt, in the middle of an election campaign, promises not to send our boys to war on October 30th, 1940 in Boston, Massachusetts. And while I'm talking to you, mothers and fathers, I give you one more assurance, as I have said this before and I shall say this again and again and again. Our boys are not going to be sent to any foreign wars. They're going into training to form a force so strong that by its very existence will keep the threat of war far away from our shores, and the purpose of our defense is defense. Well, we all know politicians lie. They have to lie. And I'm not even talking elected politicians too, because if you're a monarch somewhere, and an actual monarch with some political power, you may know of a secret plan. Whatever that, plan to defend something, plan to attack somebody, plan to rescue some people out there, and have to go out and lie, because you got to hide the secret. There are valid, good, legitimate reasons that everybody will agree that politicians have to lie upon it. Are you building a new secret weapons program in your country? Well, of course not. Because if they go, well, yes, we're building these secret whatever. No, you have to lie. You have to lie, even if you know. And I don't credit politicians. But here is a different type of lie, because he is lying. He is flat out lying. FDR wants to be involved in World War II, because by October 1940, France has fallen. Okay. So this isn't like, oh, hey, ho, ho, September, 1939, Germany's going to war with Poland. Well, Britain, France, Poland, they've got this thing, no problem, because Italy's still neutral. Hungary, Romania are all neutral. Hey, it's just Germany, France, Britain. Yeah, oh, we'll send armaments and stuff. Yeah, great, and we'll cheer you on, and we'll, we might, make sure there's no U-boats operating in the western half of the Atlantic. Watched a really good on Drakchinifil's channel. I know I've shouted him out several times now. Biography of Admiral King, the sort of god emperor of the American Navy, how the Americans were in 1940 basically running around the western part of the Atlantic looking for U-boats, whether aircraft. I'll get to some of the chats here in a minute, ZZ, and others. Hello, Brady, how you doing? No problem, good to have you here. Running around the Atlantic, whether aircraft or ships or whatever, and trying to spot all the U-boats they could, but they were neutral, and if they weren't in like U.S. waters, and they were staying out of U.S. waters, running around out there, and then trying to report them, reporting its location like in the clear, hey, U-boat spotted here, so that the British could come in and attack it, or move convoys out of the way or whatever. They were doing everything they could short of shooting at the submarines to help the Allied war effort. Now this was, by 1940 or 41, I forget the exact year, But yeah, early on, I may go legitimately, yeah, Wilson, or not Wilson, Wilson. Now, FDR might not really be like, oh, I'm going to try to get us into this war. It's like, well, maybe, the arsenal of democracy might just be able to supply France and Britain. And Japan, was still just messing around a bit in China. Yeah, they've got all this stuff. Yeah, they may have this handled, and we'll, this may just, be doable for them. But by the time France falls, FDR wants to get into the war. Now, he doesn't want, and some of this I know he wants to do from various biographies or, documentary biography type things I know. Some of this is my projection, I will state. But he doesn't want to get America into the war in a divisive way, in which you would have, huge anti-war rallies. This is why he doesn't go to Congress in late 1940, early 1941, or go to the Senate and go, my dear, and you get this before you get the vote counted before you actually ask for the vote to happen, meaning you go count the heads and see who's going to vote what way. You're going, my dear senators, with the grave news from Europe and the evils of Nazism, blah, 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 and, all this stuff, I'm going to ask you to give us a declaration of war against the Nazi evil menace, and have it be a divided vote on it. Because if I'm not mistaken, there was what? Well, there's 48 states, so there was like, what, 86 senators? 2 senators per state. All but one of the senators, on December 8th or 9th or whatever the date was for the declaration of war against Japan, that it's voted on. I forget what the exact date it's voted on. It's like a day or two after FDR does his speech to the Senate that they actually take the vote. But it is almost unanimous. Only one, and it was a she, and it was the only woman in the Senate, I believe, and she was a pacifist. And I don't know whether she votes present or votes no, but she is the only one not to vote for going to war with Japan. And then, of course, Germany declares war on America. So America then at that point, well, yeah, okay, since you declared war on us and you're going to be fighting us, yeah, we'll declare war back on you as well. So the American Senate also near unanimously declares war on Germany as well, but only after. So he doesn't even ask for a declaration of war against Germany after Japan attacks. So only until it's only after Germany declares war on America. So he does not want it to come in and seem divisive. Now, he does want to drag us into the war. So this is a knowing, by this time period, knowing political lie that he wants to get, the majority of Americans' support for being in the war. But he wants to get us into the war. And so this is a great big lie. This isn't just one of those things that is wishful thinking. Like he wishes, because he does, not like, oh, the purpose of our defense is defense. He doesn't really just want to say, oh, well, we have 500 battleships, nobody will attack us now, and then keep them all in port. No, he wants to get into the war. It's not hoping that if we do enough measures that no one will declare war on us or no one will attack us. He wants to get us into the war. And FDR is right to want to get America into the war. He's also right in that he should get overwhelming American approval to get into the war. I believe some politicians say generally what they mean for their basic principles. Like I say, all politicians have to lie at some level. And I'm talking national politicians, not like your local mayor. Now, the local mayor may know something confidential. Oh, well, they're going to build the railway here. And if he spills it out to people, they'll buy up the land, and then the government will have to pay extra for the land, the blah, blah, blah. And, so even there's confidential things that at some point, a mayor of a city go, well, I don't know where they're going to build a new railroad or the new highway. He may already know, and he may be announcing it in 5 days, but he may say, well, the decision hasn't been made yet, or whatever, and it has been made, and it may be even officially made, but they're waiting for it. So there are reasons for confidentiality and whatnot. So you have to lie, as opposed to just say no comment, which is sometimes a suitable answer. But all politicians, to some degree, have to lie. Even the good guys, even the best guys, even your best buddies. But when they say, hey, I'm against ever raising taxes, and they have secretly already typed up a plan to raise, taxes on gasoline, but not on income taxes. I just was referring to income taxes when raising it. No. I believe fundamentally some politicians, not all, and not just right or left politicians, but some politicians say ideologically or basic plans what they mean. The details and reality may crash into their plans, meaning they don't get to achieve them, or they happen in a different way, or whatever. But some are honest. But I think much of the left politicians, I'm not talking to the average person on the street, but politicians, I think FDR is right to want to get us into World War II. But he also wants to do I don't know if it's a communist, because I don't know it, but a massive, super progressive, pseudo-fascist, not maybe real fascism, but definitely he wants to move the government in that way, and you can't say it. And I think a lot of these other politicians want to do that as well. And he says he means well, or they say down here, he means well. And he's just saying this to get elected because he thinks he's going to do it. And he believes, and I think rightly, and I forget who his Republican opponent was, but the Republicans very much at the time were like, and they're going back to it. So you got to understand here, Republicans ideologically, and this is ideologically, they're against intervention around the world. Not in every case, in every place. Some more extreme libertarian extreme Republicans are against it anywhere and everywhere. But most are, now you get people like Lindsey Graham and the former John McCain, or the late John McCain, I should say, they were into intervention anywhere and everywhere. But you got during the Cold War, just during the Cold War, the Republicans believed, and I think correctly, that communism wanted to take over the world because they thought they were right and they were spreading out over the world. So the Republicans wanted to intervene in places like Vietnam because it was going to stop the spread of communism. Now the Democrats, who like to intervene, Wilson, FDR, and others, like to intervene around the world, but didn't want to intervene because they wanted the spread of communism around the world. So you had this sort of switch of who was the war party and who was the peace party in America. Because, talk big about war. Yeah, he sort of intervenes in Morocco a little bit, but I don't think there's hardly any real shooting. Teddy Roosevelt gets a Nobel Peace Prize. Teddy Roosevelt, Nobel Peace Prize. Why? Negotiating the peace between Russia, Imperial Russia, and Imperial Japan to ending the Russo-Japanese War. So he gets the Peace Prize. So Republicans are going back to their fundamental belief of, hey, we don't need, Burma and Thailand have gone to war. Okay. Well, we should intervene because one side aggressed against the other side. No. Now, and intervene is different than, oh, hey, we want to give an arms package, or, oh, hey, we want to put economic sanctions against the aggressor. It doesn't matter who in this scenario, Burma and Thailand are just picking two nations sitting next to each other. Whatever, they may want to pick a side and emotionally support a side, as well as actually send some aid, whether military or just bandages or whatever, to one side or the other, and may want to harm the other side by stopping arms sales to the aggressor, and maybe, withdrawing some trade treaty that the aggressor has made. The Republicans are very willing to do something like that, ideologically, but they don't want to send troops into Ukraine. It's sort of like, and this, and again, I have Wendell Willkie. Okay, thank you. I know the name Wendell Willkie is easy. I didn't know if he was the one in 1940 was the one running. And, at this point, in the earliest days over Crimea, I might have sent in a battalion an armored battalion to train with the Ukrainian forces, but the training zone would have been on the Crimean Peninsula. But just in the earliest days, basically sort of push in there to go say, Russia, retreat. Because I think it would have worked. But now I don't want U.S. troops, even if there wasn't a potential of nuclear war. If for some reason all the nuclear weapons were to disappear tomorrow, I think the Democrats would already have troops in Ukraine right now. Trump gets out most and gets lied to about how many troops are left in Syria. He literally, the commander-in-chief is lied to his face by the military about troops. That is, I don't know, they throw it off, and that's treason. I don't know if it's treason, but it is dereliction of duty, and some generals should be court-martialed over it. I wonder if any of them will be if Trump ever gets reelected, because they literally lied to his face about withdrawing and not doing so. Troops from Syria, and the Democrats have pushed back into like pre-Trump levels, I think, or to peak levels of troops into Syria again. Okay, it's not lots and lots of troops, but they pushed troops into there. I really do believe if there was not the big nuclear threat going on, the Democrats would already have troops into Ukraine. And you can go, oh, but Ukraine's being harmed. Yeah. That's the Democrats. They want to go into all these wars, except when it's seen as the communists are on the other side than America. because they are emotionally for the communists. They believe the communist side is, if maybe flawed in their execution, but is the just outcome because it's fair, it's even, it's leveling. But they want to intervene. I don't want to intervene in Ukraine. I don't want U.S. troops in Ukraine. Now, am I happy with selling / giving weapons of some sorts to Ukraine? Absolutely. Yeah, we can give them some weapons. We can sanction Russia. We can do things there that I'm for. And I think most Republicans, to some level, now $40 billion worth, many Republicans are going, many, not all, but many are going, that's too much. Partially, I think it's just because it's $40 billion, and they don't see, and they just hear these big numbers, and they don't see what it's going to all do. They're afraid, seriously afraid, that they're going to build bridges. Oh, well, we're putting $1 billion to, once the war's over, to rebuild Ukraine's bridges that were blown up by either side. Doesn't matter. There's a military usefulness to rebuild bridges. I don't fucking care about rebuilding bridges in Ukraine. If I want to give money to rebuilding bridges in Ukraine, I will donate it to a building bridges fund, a non-government organization fund that'll go in and build bridges into Ukraine. And to go back to the earlier thing about the wastefulness, how much of that money into corrupt Ukraine, and Ukraine has been a very, very corrupt country, will just get stolen into somebody's pockets. So I just think this big $40 billion aid package, and I don't know the details of it, but I think is misguided at best. But so people are confused by this because they've grown up in the Cold War, that the Republicans were the hawks. Well, that was just because it's the spread of communism. But when you don't have the spread of a superpower around the world, well, Republicans aren't really for intervening. China might be becoming that threat, and the Republicans might be more and more like, we got to stop Chinese involvement in Africa, and or some things like that. Some countries, whether they become communist or just some dictator that's a Chinese puppet that we may decide to invade on, and I might support that because that is seen as a geopolitical major threat spreading around the world versus simply Burma, and whether you call it Siam back then or now Thailand, were to go to war, who cares? I may care that they go to war, but I don't want to put U.S. troops in there. That's the Democrats' way. Now, that doesn't mean they're always wrong. Like I say, I'm supporting FDR in his goal, but it shows that at core, he is not willing to tell the truth of what he truly believes at his core. So if he believes in a progressive, and I don't want to say communist, because I don't think he was a communist, meaning everybody perfectly equal. But I do believe he is, and I don't believe he is a fascist like Mussolini was, because I don't believe he is a hyper-nationalist. But if you look at a lot of his programs, including the NRA, the National Recovery Act, or the National Recovery Agency as part of the National Recovery Act, going on, and people wearing badges and whatnot, they weren't quite to the Italian level of wandering around in political uniforms, but he's heading down the road of fascism and hardcore socialism, and I think that's what he wants to be the standard, and not just because he's using the Depression as a leverage to get that done. And it is only really undone bit by Truman, because Truman is a old style Democrat and not a progressive as far as I can tell, and continued to be undone by Eisenhower as a very moderate Republican. He is a very moderate Republican. He is not a hardcore any type of Republican. He's very moderate. But it's also undone, thirdly, by just the American people who has gone through the Depression, gone through the war. You know, guys running around with helmets and armbands with CD civil defense on them, you know, making sure that you know the lights were blacked out in coastal cities, and doing other sorts of civil defense stuff, you know, being nosy, being pokey. You know, they may have very, very, very good reasons to do these things, but people are just tired at being poked at by officious little people that, yeah, they may be doing the right thing and maybe not overly, you know, power hungry, you know, little minor dictators of the block or the neighborhood. You know, some cases they definitely were those kind of things. Others, they may be the most genial local guy who's understanding, but you know, but we got to have the lights out, ma'am, or we got to, you know, separate out the trash for recyclables for the war effort and versus, you know, garbage to be thrown away, ma'am. And then maybe again the nicest guy and just trying to do the best. You know, it's not all bad, but people are just tired of that from the Depression, from the war. That the three factors: Truman, Eisenhower, and the American public are just tired of it. So much, not the Social Security system, but much of the overreaching of the state is gone after FDR because the left always pushes too far. Now, let me check on the... I gotta look at the time. Okay, good time. I remember I wrote a paper in high school about Roosevelt's threat of court packing and called it authoritarian. Yes, I remember my liberal teacher wrote "wow" next to it during the grading paper. I never wrote that politically outward in school afterwards. I figured it was a bad idea since I just cared about getting good grades. I was the opposite in all the way through. I have a degree in political science, which I don't believe there is such a thing. It's not even a social science, let alone a hard science, but I believe in the art of politics. But I have a degree in political science, and I was literally in the political science department, one of 3 students that were openly out, because I had other students come in. I agree with most of what you're saying. You know, literally sort of come up quietly as leaving class. I agree with most of you saying, keep it up. But sort of have your idea, ZZ, because I just wanted good grades. And I was sort of the military hawk, you know, confronting communism. Another one was a religious Catholic who, sort of a lay Catholic kind of person who was very socially conservative. Very socially conservative. And the third one of us was a very economically, you know, laissez-faire capitalist. Not wanting, like, well, who cares if there's a monopoly, you know, on whatever. No, he wanted, you know, markets, so no monopolies. But short of breaking up monopolies, yeah, let whatever companies do whatever. You know, you can't pollute or they can't, you know, break basic laws. But beyond that, they can do whatever they want. All these other regulations are too much, you know, BS. And so he was the economic conservative or right winger or whatever. I was one of 3 in the university, and I got mostly A's, because yeah, I was that good and knew my stuff that well that the leftist teachers, including the head of the department, which I took a bunch of his courses, so he knew me quite well. I mean, he knew me quite well. He was a Latin American specialist in political science, so I had a grounding in the 1990s and the history of Latin America and the revolutions and whatnot because he was teaching it. And so, yeah, and I was able to hold my own and get good grades there. He wanted to murder U.S. taxpayers. Okay, I don't know if that's quite with the Wookiee. Okay, Russia wouldn't retreat. Crimea was Russia since Catherine the Great. No, I don't think they would retreat. I just think their tanks would start explodifying as M1 Abrams would drive around and explodify them. I still believe the M1 Abrams is much, and the communications are much, much better. And I think I've always have been told, well, yeah, you got 23 Easting, which is a battle in the first Gulf War against a bunch of Iraqi tanks. And, well, those are the export versions of their tanks with bad Iraqi crews, bad poor training. They're exhausted after the long war with Iran. So, yeah, the Abrams just, yeah. You know, suffered I forget whether it was the first Gulf War or the second Gulf War. Sorry, I get things confused. We lost 7 Abrams. No, 9 Abrams. Sorry, we lost 9 Abrams in the invasion. They had, T-72s and other things. We lost 9 Abrams. However many tanks they blew up, we lost 9 Abrams. Well, 7 of the 9 were to friendly fire, and the other 2, the crews blew up the tanks themselves because they were going to abandon them for whatever reason, like the engine wasn't working and they weren't going to stay there or something like that. It wasn't. They may have been tracked or whatever, and the crew wasn't going to stay around. And the drill is don't leave an intact Abrams for the enemy to even look at for a few moments. Blow it up. So the crews blew up 2. So those are counted. So none were lost to enemy action. It was lost to friendly fire. The others were damaged, rolling over a mine and track blows and whatever, but not considered a lost vehicle, maybe knocked out of action. So yeah, but the Russians are so much better. They have the non-export versions, and they're much better trained. And now we're looking at Ukraine and going, and I got my German friends, including one who drives Leopard 2 A5, I think. I'm not sure. I'm sure he can tell. He's told me. I just don't remember whether it's the A5 or the A6. Well, I don't know that the Armata has problems, and we don't know how well the Armata would work. Ragar, we really don't know. All 14 of them, or however many they built. And yes, Arno, Fritz will say the Leopards are better. They might be. But I don't know that their armor package is better. We have depleted uranium in our armor package, and we have depleted uranium projectiles coming out of our guns, and the Leopards don't. Now the newer Leopards, not the early Leopard 2s, but the newer Leopards, they have a longer barrel on them than what they used to have, because we used the Leopard barrel, the earlier ones for the Abrams. And the longer barrel gets their non-depleted uranium, their tungsten-based or whatever rounds, up to almost this, up to a faster speed that has almost as much penetration as our depleted uranium rounds. So you can talk about the newer stabilization that may be more precise for the guns and the Leopards, and you can talk about some of the other upgradings. But you look at the latest Abrams, the latest ones with their active defense. It's not Iron Fist, it's the other Israeli-based. I mean, we're making them now here in the U.S., I believe. Active defense systems added onto the sides of them, and they've only gotten a few of those out so far. But with that active defense system, depleted uranium armor package, so they don't have to rely upon as much of that extra armor, the reactive armor that the Leopards have on. Because if you take off all that extra armor, the removable extra armor on a standard removable on the Leopard, they become very boxy. But you stick on the other extra stuff that's reactive and other things on it, turns it more angly. But the Abrams, with its depleted uranium armor and its depleted uranium rounds, I don't know that it's better. And the Armata has, all of its crew in one compartment, 3 of them, and fairly heavily armored. I don't know, and it's classified, so I wouldn't know. Box up front, and so that entire turret is unmanned. So that can be a good thing in that when it explodifies, hit the autoloader with the rounds, the crew isn't maybe harmed at all. The crew just goes, "Oh shit, we aren't moving anywhere. We're on fire. The locals have too many machine guns, or can we, bail out safely and get out of the tank?" But we don't know how well that turret is armored, and we don't know what kind of damage that turret can take and keep functioning, and we we don't know how well that turret is mechanically going to work, break down, because all machinery breaks down. How quickly will that break down? And we just don't know because it's not really tested. And yeah, I know the one broken down Armata, maybe that's what they said, maybe that the brakes, just the guy didn't take the handbrake off the tank. That's what they said. I think maybe because it's a lot electronic, I think the brakes got told not to move somehow electronically, and they couldn't take the brakes off, so they dragged the thing away with the brakes on it from that one Russian. That's my guess. I obviously don't know. So I don't know that the Armata is better. Conceptually, it's trying to be, but I don't know that it is. And I get your thing. How many javelins would I'm afraid a combined Leopard to Abrams attack? Those two tanks combined with. Yeah, and so I don't know about a Leo 2's what sort of active protection systems, but yeah, I think the active protection system is going to blow those javelins out of the sky as it comes near it. I can't guarantee that or anything, but and you fire enough of them. Hey, if we get 40 guys to all launch their javelins all at once at that one tank, we'll be able to take it out. Yeah, sure, you will. But you launch 2 at them? Well, I think the missiles explode out of the sky, and at some point you have to get out of the tank. You're on top of the tank to reload the shotgun shell type charges. They use a shotgun shell, I forget which trophy. I think it's the trophy system. The Iron Fist. I sort of like the Iron Fist better because it was a concussion system. But I guess I don't know why the Americans chose the one that they chose. I guess maybe it's because that's what the Israelis ended up choosing. And I don't know why they chose trophy over Iron Fist. Just the concept of the Iron Fist to me sounded better, but I don't know whether in practical testing or whether it could just be a budget issue. The cost of trophy is cheaper than the cost of Iron Fist, and thought to be similarly enough effective. And if you're going to have thousands of them, the cost is important or something. I don't know, but yeah. So I'm going with the Abrams right now as being the best. The most modern Abrams as being better than the most modern Leopard 2 because of the reasons I've stated. And we have some really damn well trained crews in some of our Abrams units. I don't know if that's standard, but some of our crews are really well trained and that kind of thing. Okay, active protections. Yes, absolutely, Rhaegar. And my understanding is all those active protection systems have a kill switch on them that they can turn off if there's infantry near. But one, you can not stand close to the Abrams. 2, if you have lots of infantry around you, you can turn that off because you got the infantry out there keeping all the javelins and NLAWs and whatever away from you being shot at. They're too far out to necessarily hit you. And you do have also the active protection systems of the non-kinetic type that will continue to function, meaning those that disrupt guidance systems. Lasers that will blind incoming missiles and whatnot that are not particularly dangerous to nearby crew or nearby infantry. So you can turn those on and off. So they do have that potential to be a problem. That's sort of why I like the concussive system better, because yes, if you were standing, I don't know, 10 feet away from an Abrams and on the correct side of an incoming missile, and you fired the concussion system off of Iron Fist, it could kill or could seriously injure a person. But then I thought, well, if you're standing out there and the missile comes in, you're on that side of the tank, and the missile comes in without it there and hits the tank and blows up, you can still be killed or severely injured, because even though the main directive force of the explosion is into the tank, if you're just standing around out near the tank and this thing comes in and explodes, you can die as well, just from, it's not anywhere near the blast effects to go through any sort of armor, proper armor. But even if you're wearing a bulletproof vest, you still have lots of fleshy bits exposed. So yeah, at some point, if you're talking immediately close to the tank, you're in just about as much danger from the incoming round after it hits the tank, and it explodes reactive armor, and you're 5 feet away from the tank and a reactive armor explodes. I don't think you're going to have a good day. I don't know quite the injury effect 5 feet away from a tank with the reactive armor going off, but you don't want to be there even for that. So yeah, there's more reasons to not use a tank as a shield for infantry like you would see in World War I, or like you see in the Battle of Hue in 67 and or 68 in Vietnam. They're using it as a mobile pillbox to hide behind and shoot from behind as the tank rolls up. Maybe you want to stay a little further away from it than that nowadays. So yeah, I think there's only 14 Armatas out there. So Russia has built a really nice new missile, anti-ship missile, that they tested. Had about the last test as of like last week, double the range that they thought, and it's a Mach 9. It's going at Mach 9 when it's really far away, because it goes up to the really high atmosphere and goes at Mach 9 with a scramjet. But once it comes down to near the ship, it's got to slow down a lot because the ramjet goes off, because the ramjets can't operate, at sea level or near it. So it slows down. So it's going slow enough for, they think, probably for most, CIWS systems, closed-in weapon systems, both gun systems as well as anti-missile systems. When it gets closer, it's still going damn fast, but it's not going Mach 9 by the time it gets in there. But it, whether it's land-based or ship-based, when it's fired from like 500 miles away from you, it's flying really fast to get to your area that you may not realize that you're being fired at quick enough to get all your systems online. So you might get like what happened to the Moskva, got sunk out here. Yeah, but how many of those missiles Russia's actually going to build? Russia seems to be able to build some Armata prototypes or limited production, or a few of this or a few of that. But we can see America producing sustained levels of smart munitions to continue long-term fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan simultaneously, where they're building replacement smart weapons in Russia, but we're seeing so many dumb weapons, at least according to the British defense intelligence postings. I know they're open source postings that they're doing. They believe that the stockpiles of Russia's smart weapons are basically depleted. Bombs and guided missiles are basically depleted. I'm sure they're making replacements, but production is slow, nowhere near the consumption rate. So they're going back to earlier weapon systems. So yeah, Russia's good, but not that good. Hey, Beam Slam. Good to have you here. Okay, enough about modern stuff. Let's continue this here. Okay, Naval HQ's advance. Very nice. 41. And that for now. And AP ammunition for cruisers, your 6-inch rounds. Okay. And that's 1939. Okay. Treaties affected a lot of production of ships for World War II. Including the Germans. The Germans, of course, lied about their displacement of, and even some of the gun sizes, I believe, on some of their ships. The Americans, in few cases, sort of kind of lied. They go, oh yeah, your cruisers can, cruisers over, 1,000 tons displacement. It doesn't matter the size. You can only have 8 of them, say. I'm getting the details are unimportant. You only have 8 of them. And so America's going, oh, okay, we can only have 8 cruisers with 1,000-ton displacement. Now we can have more, 1,000 tons or more. But we can have as many as we want at 990 ton displacement. Okay. Well, we only load half of the ammunition in the ammunition lockers. We only load half the fuel in the tanks and the ships, and we only load half the fresh water in the ships. This otherwise, this ship will be under 1,000 tons. Now, if we fully load it up, it'll be, 1,100 tons or 1,200 tons or something like that. I don't know. So we just won't load up, and we'll call this, this is standard loading. So yeah, we're keep sort of fake out the results a bit. And they could do that for a few things, but also there was based partially on gun barrel size, as well as size of heavy cruisers or size of cruisers of a certain tons. So what America does, they already got some ships either actually in production, a few of them, or planning in production. So instead of heavy cruisers, they convert them to light cruisers, put 6-inch guns instead of 8-inch guns. Instead of 9 guns, they go 15 guns, hoping volume of fire is going to make up for less penetration. And they turn some of those cruisers, some of the later ones, into aircraft carriers like the CVLs. Those are built on cruiser hulls that had already been started production, at least most of them. A few of them probably hadn't been started, but they just, swap it over to being a light carrier. Now, so what they did do, though, and this is the AP reminded me of this, is they made a 6-inch gun shell. And they also made the 6-inch guns a little stronger for some of the later ones. You could put it in the older guns, but wear them out faster. That had more power behind them, a longer shell with more explosives in it. So, but also a very solid, front for penetration to get not quite the penetration at certain ranges that an 8-inch shell would conventionally give, but getting damn close. So they made some 6-inch shells that would perform almost penetration-wise, almost like an 8-inch shell. And they were hoping that rapid gunfire would do it. And these were meant to take out enemy battle cruisers and heavy cruisers. Not really to take out battleships, but neither were the heavy cruisers. The heavy cruisers are just made to shoot at everything other than battleships at a range, potentially, that the other ships can't even shoot back, and just blast them out there. But they have getting to about the reload rates of a battleship, which is pretty slow. So sort of a way around it all. Okay, Beam, Sam, and Arno are having fun with each other. Cool. All right. So that's how that sort of worked. And we have a little more research that we can do here. So they were playing around with these treaty limitations. Okay, warship damage control. At this time, or well, by 1940, no one was paying. The treaty is basically gone, and the U.S. is influenced by the treaty designs because they already have either design, like I say, some stuff is already in production, and they're going to start building even more of the ships, or the ships are on the drawing board, and to significantly redesign them isn't quite worth the effort. So they keep sort of within treaty limitations as to the size of hulls and guns, because you got to redesign so much of the ship to have a bigger round go through it. You just can't swap out bigger guns. Twin engine armament advance. Oh, that's up here. Okay, 41. We want to stop that for now because it's not grayed out, but we don't need to push on it. All right, well, let's do that. How is our production doing? Okay, so most of our forts are either completed or in production. We still have a few fortresses not yet. But it's November 1940 and we have yet to get into aircraft or army production. So that's a bit worrying. Okay, expand our light aircraft factories, great. Air Force HQs, great. We'll move that over to motor-based HQs, and I think we have 2 of these to select. Air Force HQs, yes. And Naval HQs, yes. What other? Nope, nothing else we want to do. That's more light aircraft factories, which makes export chromite. Australia. Yeah, we're getting to where we're going to start saying no to most of those, but we'll use a little more money. Twin engine airframe research. We're getting ready to start doing some of that, but let's do single engine fighter prototype. Let's keep advancing on that specialty. Okay, Army headquarters advance. Is that, it's over here, this one. And it's grayed out. Okay. Well, let's do Paris. Okay, we've gone to this. Democratic Party wins the election. Not used to playing a nation that has election results, so yeah. There we go. Okay, El Salvador stopping trade. Medium armored designs have advanced. And yes. Okay, armored cars. We'll give that one a go. Australia. Submarine. New Zealand submarines. They're doing a lot of submarines. Okay. Not bad for them to do. Yes, and Arno wants to see what the new tank looks like. Bill the Christie. Well, let's give it a data. We just got new mediums. Let's check that again. Yep, still the Christie. So we're still the Christie, and this is back to that. Okay, well, whatever. Medium fuel tank research advances, which frees up more research down here, but I'm going to look for other 1940 technologies that we should do first, maybe. I know of a bunch, but I'm looking at some of these here. Or possibly 41s. But okay, so we have a bunch of 1940, so we're going to start on that. Will we get the medal for money? Certainly. Okay, aviation navigation radar. I think that is, no, that is this one. Okay, good. Well, yeah, let's do destroyers and armored fighting vehicles, AA. Let's also come up here and do cruiser radar. And I think we will save this. Now, I have some good news for everybody. I hope all of you who are currently watching will like this good news. In approximately 40 minutes, I will be over on Slithering TV playing Panzer Corps 2, the Axis Operations 1943 DLC, which has just come out recently. So I will be starting that. The first battle is very tricky. I have not completed the first battle, but I played the first few turns a few times to figure out the opening moves. So I will be over there playing that. And tomorrow we'll be playing War Thunder on this channel with Arno and hopefully others. And we have a premiere of a video that will be shown during the live stream. No, we can't do Infantry Thunder, Arno, because we will be showing the premiere of Team G's Greatest Hits Volume 1 of War Thunder. So we'll be showing the premiere at least once of that video during the live stream that Eric has edited up. So we have to focus on War Thunder. So, you don't want your video to be shown? Arno? You're in the video. At least your tank is and whatnot. So, don't know why you're going boo on that. Yeah, you're in it. Don't you remember a particular kill you made with a main gun of a Tiger 1 tank? So, that will be premiering tomorrow. So, yes. We will be doing that tomorrow. You're crazy? Okay, well, I thought about that a lot. So, yeah, so I will be live in 35 minutes over on Slithering, but I'm going to Tiger 1 fun kill you made. Yeah, that one you made. I'm not, it's a spectacular kill. Eric's done a very good job editing the video. Hopefully it'll do well. And then we'll also put the video eventually just up on the channel, just as its own standalone thing. But I wanted to air it in the German. Although the French have moved into here, the Germans have moved over into here. How interesting. Okay. Especially the Maginot Line. So I'll be back very soon, but over there on Slithering TV. So thanks everyone. Had fun hanging out with you. Hopefully to see you in a few minutes. Yep, we're going to be doing that. Having fun over with Panzer Corps.